The fatal mistake of the mediocre man is to believe that battles are won when the trumpet sounds, when the crowd is gathered, and when the judges are seated. This is the illusion of the weak, for by the time the contest begins, the true victor has already been chosen. If you allow your rival the space to prepare, to gather his thoughts, to sharpen his weapons, you have already ceded ground that cannot be reclaimed. The wise man knows that war is not waged in the open field alone. It begins in the silence before dawn, when the opponent still dreams of his victory. It is in this unseen hour that you must strike, not with swords or accusations, but with the invisible blade of influence and anticipation. To strike before the arena is set is to plant seeds that will blossom into fear long before the moment of confrontation. This is not a matter of crude sabotage, which is easily detected and countered, but of guiding your opponent's own mind towards self-doubt. It is to walk past them in the corridors of preparation with an unraidable smile, to speak of past contests where champions fell unexpectedly, to mention, offhandedly, that the crowd has been whispering their name not with admiration, but with speculation about whether they will falter. Your attack must never appear deliberate, for the deliberate strike invites a defensive guard. Instead, it must be woven into the natural flow of events until your rival cannot tell if his unease comes from you or from within himself. The ground of the arena extends beyond its physical borders. It includes every eye that will watch, every ear that will listen, every voice that will speak of the coming competition. If you wish to strike early, you must influence these witnesses before your rival ever steps forward. Let them repeat your carefully chosen words, each echo carrying with it a suggestion of your superiority and their fragility. Never be seen as the source. Instead, appear as though you are merely part of the tide that carries these opinions. A rival who suspects that the audience already doubts him will feel as if he fights two enemies, the one before him and the invisible weight of public expectation. There is a power in uncertainty, but it must be wielded with precision. If you show your hand too soon, your rival may find clarity in opposition to you. But if you move quietly, casting shadows without ever being seen, they will never be certain whether the darkness they feel is real or imagined. A man who does not know the source of his unease will spend his energy searching for it, rather than preparing for the battle itself. His focus will scatter like sand in the wind, and you will be there to shape its direction. Even the smallest gesture, made at the right time, can unbalance a man before he sets foot on the field. A glance held too long, a tone of voice that suggests knowledge you do not reveal, an unhurried manner in the face of urgency. These will gnaw at the mind of a man who is about to test himself. In his silence, he will ask himself why you are so calm, what you know that he does not, and whether his preparations have been enough. And it is in that question, repeated again and again in his own head, that you have already won. A contest is not truly about skill alone. It is about the state of mind when skill is tested. If you can make your rival believe, before the first move, that he is at a disadvantage, then every motion he makes will be heavy with that belief. His hands will hesitate, his judgment will falter, his breath will betray him. The most ruthless victor is not the one who crushes his enemy in the open, but the one who makes the enemy defeat himself before the first blow is struck. If you wait for the arena to be set, for the rules to be spoken, for the eyes of the crowd to turn toward you both, then you have already arrived too late. The man who wins is the man who begins long before anyone calls it a contest. The wise competitor ensures that when the gates open and the match begins, his rival has already spent his strength in the invisible war, fought in the days and hours before, leaving only a shell to face him in the light. The vanity of most men is their most fertile weakness, for they are blind to the truth that their greatest strengths are also the most vulnerable points in their armor. Every man who has achieved some mastery over a skill, some talent, some virtue, clings to it as the source of his worth. This attachment is not born of reason, but of pride, and pride is a leash that can be held by the hands of another. If you wish to unmake your rival without touching him, you must seize this leash and pull it until his strength becomes his undoing. Consider the swordsman who believes his speed makes him invincible. Praise him for it, not once, but often, until he becomes convinced that speed alone will carry him through any encounter. Suggest, subtly, that his opponents could never match him if he simply struck faster, pressed harder, gave no time for thought. You have not insulted him, you have merely inflated the part of himself he already worships. In the contest, he will throw himself into every strike with reckless haste, abandoning caution, abandoning strategy, and you will meet his speed with patience until he runs headlong into his own mistakes. The beauty of this method lies in the fact that he will blame no one but himself, for he will believe he failed because he was not fast enough, not because speed itself betrayed him. The same can be done with the scholar whose weapon is knowledge. A man who prides himself on knowing more than others fears nothing more than being shown he knows less. Feed him information, true or false, that will tempt him to flaunt his intelligence. Give him just enough truth that he believes he cannot be deceived. Then slip in the poison. When he proclaims your planted lies as his own insight, the blow to his credibility will be twice as sharp, for it will come from his own mouth. In this way, his confidence in his intellect becomes the very trap that robs him of it. Strength, when recognized and admired by others, becomes a burden a man feels compelled to prove again and again. You must be the voice that reminds him, gently, with apparent sincerity, of how exceptional he is in that singular domain. Do not tell him he is good at many things. Focus all light on the one thing he cherishes most. This creates a narrow path on which he must walk, for to deviate from it would risk disappointing the image he believes others hold of him. And once a man is bound to a narrow path, you can lead him exactly where you wish him to go. When you weaponize a strength, you are not attacking openly. You are guiding the man into a place where his own virtues will act against him. The proud leader will overextend himself to maintain his dominance, making decisions for the sake of appearing strong rather than being wise. The honest man will speak too freely, trusting that his sincerity will protect him, until he hands you words you can use against him. The disciplined man will refuse to adapt when the situation changes, believing flexibility to be weakness, until his rigidity becomes a prison. In every case, the downfall is self-inflicted, but only because you have shaped the path to lead toward that end. The mastery of this art lies in never letting your hand be seen in the shaping. If the victim suspects that his strength is being turned against him, he will resist, he will step away, and he may even find a truer balance. But if you work through praise, admiration, and subtle encouragement, he will feel as though he is moving toward greater power, not toward collapse. You will be the friend who supports him, the confidant who believes in him, the ally who sees his greatness, until that greatness consumes him. When his inevitable faltering comes, you need not lift a finger. The crowd will witness his fall as a failure of his own judgment, never realizing that you were the silent architect of his ruin. And he, in his pride, will cling to the belief that he lost because he was not strong enough in his chosen virtue, never suspecting that it was the virtue itself that was the poison in his veins. A man's reputation is the shadow that walks before him, shaping the expectations of those who have not yet met him and guiding the judgment of those who have. It is both armor and weapon, yet it is also the easiest thing to distort, for most people do not see a man as he is, but as they are told he is. The wise understand that truth is irrelevant in the court of perception. What matters is the version of the truth that is repeated, whispered, and believed. If you wish to weaken your rival before the contest, you must become the unseen hand that paints his image in the minds of others, until his name carries the weight you have chosen for it. This task must never be undertaken with crude accusation, for open attacks invite defense, and defense invites sympathy. Instead, your approach must be clothed in subtlety, disguised as observation or concern. Speak of his talents, but pair them with faint shadows of doubt. Describe his past victories, but remind your audience that fortune often favors the untested. Mention his determination, but add, as if in confidence, that you have seen such determination falter under real strain. Let every compliment you give carry the seed of a question. until those who hear it can no longer admire him, without also wondering how long he can endure. The most dangerous narrative is the one that others believe they have arrived at themselves. To create this illusion, you must scatter pieces of the story, not deliver it whole. Share a detail here, an anecdote there, always in different contexts and with different people. Each will believe they have discovered the truth by assembling these fragments, but in truth, they are assembling the portrait you have designed. The mind is far more convinced of its own conclusions than of any argument imposed upon it, and by letting others build the case against your rival, you ensure their belief will be unshakable. Reputation lies not only in what is said, but in what is left unsaid. A pause before answering a question about your rival can be more powerful than an accusation. A glance exchanged with another when his name is mentioned can weigh more heavily than a speech. Silence, used well, allows the imagination to do your work for you, and the imagination is far more vivid than any deliberate claim. By leaving gaps in the narrative, you invite others to fill them with their own suspicions, which will always be more damning than anything you could have declared outright. The power of controlling a reputation lies in its persistence. Once a doubt has been placed in the minds of the audience, it will resurface every time your rival is mentioned. Even if he performs well, those who have absorbed your narrative will interpret his success as temporary, or as the result of luck, or as the desperate effort of a man trying to silence his critics. In this way, even his triumphs become servants to your design, for they will be seen not as proof of strength, but as moments of postponement before an inevitable fall. It is not enough to weaken how others see him. You must also infect how he sees himself. Let him hear faint echoes of the doubts you have spread, never directly, but through the mouths of those he thought were allies. A stray remark, a question asked too casually, a word of advice that carries an unintended sting. These will remind him that his reputation is no longer whole. A man who suspects that the world sees him differently will begin to carry himself differently, hesitating in moments when he once acted without thought. In the eyes of the crowd, this hesitation will confirm the very doubts you have sown. Control the narrative, and you control the man. His skill, his preparation, his courage. These matter little when the audience has already decided who he is. For in any contest, the final judgment is not written in the moment of action, but in the minds of those who witness it, and those minds can be shaped long before the first step is taken toward the arena. A man divided within himself is already half defeated, for his hand cannot strike with certainty when his mind is pulled in opposing directions. To force a rival into mental disarray is to rob him of the unity between thought and action, to make him question the very ground beneath his feet before he steps upon it. This is not done with open conflict, for open conflict sharpens the senses. Instead, it is achieved with quiet and deliberate disturbances, each too small to provoke outright alarm, yet together powerful enough to erode his focus until nothing remains but hesitation. Confusion is a slow poison. Administer it in doses so subtle that your rival cannot trace its origin. Contradict yourself in ways that seem unintentional, offering one piece of advice in the morning and another in the evening, leaving him unsure which is true. Applaud him for one behavior, only to praise the opposite when he tries to repeat it. When a man can no longer predict how you or others will respond to his actions, he begins to second-guess every step, as if he walks through a fog where no path is certain. This constant doubt consumes his energy long before the contest begins. Comparison is a potent tool for breaking concentration. Speak casually of others who have faced the same challenge and failed despite appearing more prepared than he is. Suggest that his methods remind you of someone who was crushed in defeat, not because you wish to insult him, but because you appear to be drawing a harmless parallel. Even if he rejects the comparison outwardly, it will remain lodged in his mind, quietly gnawing at his confidence. In time, he will begin to measure himself against the failures you have placed before him, instead of the victory he seeks. Introduce uncertainties that have nothing to do with the contest itself, yet occupy his thoughts when he should be focused on preparation. A rumor about a change in the rules, a question about whether the audience is truly supportive, a suggestion that an influential figure has already made a judgment about the outcome. These will split his attention. He will begin to prepare for scenarios that may not exist, wasting his energy on shadows, while you remain fixed on the real battle ahead. The art of forcing mental disarray is not about overwhelming him with a single blow, but about creating an environment where he cannot find stable footing. Even moments of rest become infected with unease. When he sleeps, his mind will return to the inconsistencies, the unanswered questions, the subtle comparisons. He will awake with less clarity than before, his spirit eroded not by force, but by uncertainty. It is important to maintain the illusion that you are not the source of this confusion. If he suspects you, he may gather his strength against you, and adversity can awaken a man's resolve. Instead, be the one who seems to share in his uncertainties, the one who offers sympathy while quietly feeding the instability. Appear as a confidant, someone equally concerned about the shifting circumstances, so that your presence never awakens suspicion. The most effective confusion is that which the victim believes has come from the world itself, not from a single hand guiding it. A man in mental disarray will not act with precision, even if he has the skill to do so. His timing will falter, his judgment will become hesitant, and his execution will lack the sharpness required for victory. He may still fight, still speak, still perform, but each action will be tainted by the thought that there is some unknown factor he has failed to account for. This thought will slow him, and in the moment when speed and certainty matter most, that hesitation will be fatal. By the time the contest begins, he will not see you as his only opponent. He will also be fighting the doubts you have woven into his mind, the ghosts of comparisons, the unease born of contradictions, and the restless questioning of every decision. And when a man must battle both his rival and himself, his defeat is not a matter of possibility, but of inevitability. In every contest, whether of strength, wit, or influence, there is one truth that never changes. Men are drawn to certainty as soldiers are drawn to a banner in the chaos of battle. The crowd will rally behind the one who moves without hesitation, and even the opponent will feel the pull of that steadiness. To appear as the embodiment of certainty is to project such unshakable confidence that it becomes a weapon sharper than any blade, for it speaks directly to the fears your rival cannot silence within himself. Certainty must be crafted long before the contest begins. It is not merely a mask worn in the moment of action, but a presence that is cultivated in every glance, every word, and every motion. When you walk into a room, you must seem as though you already know the outcome of every exchange. When you speak, your tone must hold the weight of inevitability, as though the world will bend itself to your statement. This is not arrogance, for arrogance invites the hope of proving you wrong. True certainty leaves no opening for challenge. It radiates the quiet assurance of a man who does not need to convince, because he is already convinced. Your rival, no matter how prepared, will search for signs of doubt in you, for it is human instinct to look for weakness in an enemy. If he finds none, he will turn inward and begin to question himself instead. Every moment that he spends wondering whether he has misjudged your strength, whether he is as ready as he believed, chips away at the unity of his own purpose. You have not spoken a word to undermine him. You have only stood before him with a stillness that he cannot match. And in that stillness, he sees his own unease reflected. The embodiment of certainty is not merely in posture or tone, but in the refusal to be moved by any shift in circumstance. When unexpected events arise, others will watch to see how you respond. If you appear unfazed, as though such changes were already part of your plan, they will believe that nothing can unsettle you. This belief will spread to your rival, who will begin to feel as though fate itself favors you. And when a man believes fate is against him, he will begin to act in ways that confirm his own defeat. Even in moments when you do not know the outcome, you must behave as though the path ahead is already secured. The mind draws strength from conviction, and by forcing yourself to act with absolute assurance, you create an aura that others cannot penetrate. Your rival may have the skill, the preparation, and the support to challenge you, But if his heart trembles in the shadow of your calm, his skill will falter when it matters most. The body obeys the mind, and a mind poisoned by uncertainty cannot command with precision. The subtle danger for your rival is that your certainty will begin to seep into his own perception. The more you carry yourself as the inevitable victor, the more he will begin to feel that you are. Even if he resists the thought consciously, his subconscious will prepare for loss, softening the edge of his ambition. And once a man begins to prepare for defeat, he has already accepted it in some quiet part of himself. The audience, too, will play their part in this illusion. People admire confidence, and their admiration becomes a force that reinforces your image. Every approving glance, every whispered comment of your composure will reach your rival's ears. He will not only see you as unshakable, he will see that others see you this way as well. In this way, certainty becomes not just your personal armor, but a mantle the crowd helps you carry, magnifying its weight in the mind of your opponent. To appear as the embodiment of certainty is to occupy the highest ground before the battle is even fought. It is to become the fixed point in a shifting world, the one presence that does not waver when all else moves. Against such a figure, the rival begins to feel like a guest in his own struggle, as if he is moving toward an end already decided. And when he steps forward to face you, it will not be with the fire of a man certain of victory, but with the quiet dread of one who suspects that he is about to fulfill the conclusion you have already written in the minds of all who watch.